Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today, as usual. Let me tell you, folks, it's a strange day. It seems like pardons are going and being hit all over the place. Pardon you, pardon you, pardon you. $1 million, a pardon. You commit fraud, a pardon. Any kind of fraud that you commit similar to what I'm doing, a pardon. Anyhow, welcome aboard. What's wrong with my Facebook and YouTube chat? It's kind of quiet today, but anyhow, welcome aboard. I'm Michael Rudden, the first one in the YouTube chat or Facebook chat or Twitch chat, whichever that is. I think it's Twitch. And the number one. And secondly, we have Yvette Avery Herod as the second person. She says, "Good afternoon, posse. I hope it's working. Never seen it this bare before. But in our Substack, welcome aboard. Of course, I don't get the first 40 or 50 or so, but welcome aboard Celeste. Welcome aboard Carol Q, D. Lee Smith, Terry Diane, Adam W, Kathy Blackburn, LAC. Glad to see you here. Hope all is fine with everybody. But I am still concerned that I'm wondering if all these chats are up to speed, up to snuff, because it's usually have more people than this by now. Anyhow, let's see what we're going to talk about today. Today we're going to talk about, let me go ahead and put it up on the screen. I don't do it all the time, but let's go ahead and do that today. All right, today we're going to talk about 60 Minutes Scott Pelley nails Trump, Judge Lina Hidalgo speaks, and Democratic Party emergency by the one and only Norman Solomon. Anyway, Lina Hidalgo, Harris County, Texas judge talks reelection run and commissioners court Trump-like votes by Democrats. And 60 Minutes Scott Pelley nails Trump. When will the Democratic Party declare an emergency? I think it should be now. Paul Fleming is in from Powder Springs, Georgia. So I guess the chat, at least the Facebook portion, is working. How you doing, Paul? Great to see you here. Let's see what else I've got here. Bear with me as we move on. Joe Brace just joined us on Substack. Adam says we're all going to have to chip in to pardon you, Egberto. Yeah, when they arrest me, man, when Trump comes and says, I don't like what you're saying about me, you guys going to have to pitch in and get me a pardon. I think he's going to want a few $1 million to pardon me since, I'm of the wrong political persuasion. You know what I mean? But hey, who knows what happens, right? We'll see what happens. Anyway, before I get to the first video with Lina Hidalgo, I want to kind of get a few more people on. So let's go ahead and talk something else first, like what's going on in the good old Adam says we got your back. Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Adam. Love you, man. Love you. All right, let's go ahead and go. Eric Hayes is in the house as well. How you doing, Eric, from Atascocita, Kingwood? I guess it's just people slow to get in. Martha Masters just joined us from Substack. Let's see. Let's go ahead and go to the how bad does it have to get before the Democratic Party declares an emergency? According to the one and only Norman Solomon, I've interviewed him several times. He said the following: the extraordinary national crisis Trump has created is made even more severe by Democratic leaders, including top congressional lawmakers and DNC brass, who refuse to acknowledge its magnitude. I agree wholeheartedly. Midway through this month, Democratic Representative Hakeem Jeffries sent out a fundraising text saying that he recently announced a 10-point plan to take on Trump and the Republicans. But the plan has no more recent than early February, just 2 weeks after President Trump's inauguration. It's hardly reassuring that the House Minority Leader cited a 100-day-old memo as his strategy for countering the administration's countless moves since then to dismantle entire government agencies. Make no sense, right? I don't know. Oh, that's Discord. Thank you for telling me that. Let me get rid of Discord. That's where that message is coming from. I've been wondering where I've been getting that little thing from. Thank you, Radnin. What would I do without my resident geniuses? Let's see. Let's go ahead and, for the time being, let's go ahead and exit the application if I can. Oh, that's where it is. Let's log out of that. Log out, and I think we should be okay now. That's where that's coming from. Okay, there we go. All right. So why would they? There's so much that has happened since, right? And he's coming out with a 100-day-old thing. Meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is so unpopular with the Democratic base that a speaking tour for his book abruptly postponed just before it was set to begin more than 2 months ago still hasn't been rescheduled. The eruption of anger at his support for Trump's spending bill in mid-March made Schumer realize that being confronted by irate Democrats in deep blue states wouldn't make for good photo ops. Last month, a Gallup poll measured public confidence in the Democratic congressional leadership at just, what again? 25%, a steep drop of 9 points since 2023, and now at an all-time low. Much of the disaffection comes from habitual Democratic voters who see the party leaders as slow-moving and timid while the Trump administration continues with its rampage. And it's not only on the national level. Even here in Houston, a Democratic blue city, we see a commissioner's court with 4 to 5 in Democrats. And 2 of the Democrats act Trumpian, act as if they have to follow the Trump model in a Democratic Harris County, where most of the judges are Democratic, most of the positions are held by Democrats, and yet the two of our 4 Democrats on the commissioner's court are misbehaving with no democratic values. We'll play the judge in a little bit. Away from the Capitol, the party's governing body, the Democratic National Committee, is far from dynamic or nimble. Maintaining its twice-a-year timetable, the 448-member DNC isn't scheduled to meet until late August. What can happen between now and late August? Why would you not meet until late August? We are, you hear on my program here and on the radio show I do at KPFT, I am ringing alarm bells. Folks, you have got to go ahead and call your congressperson. You have got to get ahead and get rid of all that the Republicans are doing. Talk to your senator. Ensure that your senator doesn't do the wrong thing. Right? Okay, the DNC in the meantime, the DNC's executive committee is set to gather in Little Rock, Arkansas on Friday for its first meeting since December. That meeting is scheduled to last 3 hours. The DNC bylaws say that the executive committee shall be responsible for the conduct of the affairs of the Democratic Party in the interim between meetings for a full Democratic National Committee, but the pace of being responsible is hurried to the point of political malpractice. The extraordinary national crisis is made even more severe to the extent that top Democrats do not acknowledge its magnitude. 4 months into his job at the DNC chair, Ken Martin has yet to show that the DNC is truly operating in real time while the country faces a unprecedented threat to what's left of democracy. His power to call an emergency meeting of the full DNC remains unused. This week, Martin received a petition co-sponsored by Progressive Democrats of America and Roots Action. That is Norman Solomon's organization, and Roots Action, urging the DNC to convene an emergency meeting of all its members, fully open to the public as soon as possible. The petition adds that the predatory, extreme, and dictatorial actions of Trump administration call for an all-out commensurate response, which so far has been terribly lacking from the Democratic Party. Among the 7,000 signers were more than 1,500 people who wrote individual comments, angrily imploring the DNC to finance swing into suitable action. So says Norman Solomon. As several top DNC officials fly into Little Rock's Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport, they will bring with them the power to begin shifting the direction of the Democratic Party, but the chances of a positive course correction looks meager. The DNC current executive committee is a bastion of the party establishment, unlikely to signal to grassroots Democrats and the general public that the party is no longer locked into automatic pilot. The pattern is sort of repetition, compulsion, afflicting democratic movers and shakers along with parties as an institution. While many journalists focus on the ages of congressional leaders, the lopsided power held by Democrats in their 70s and 80s is merely a marker of a deeper problem. Their approaches are rooted in the past and are not withering on the political vine. Even with the rare meeting of the DNC Executive Committee just a couple of days away, the official Democratic Party website was still offering no information about it. The apparent preference is to keep us in the dark, but anyone can sign up to watch live stream coverage of the Progressive Hub during a 4-hour feed that will begin at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, along with the excerpts from the Executive Committee meeting. As it happens, the coverage will include analysis from my Roots Action colleague, Sam Rosenthal, who's been inside the meeting room in Little Rock, and former Democratic nominee for Buffalo Mayor India Walton. The live stream will also feature a interview with Congressman Ro Khanna, who has endorsed the call for an emergency meeting of the full DNC. And that is on Friday, I guess, at 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central. Right now, the Democratic Party appears to be stuck between Little Rock and the hard place. The only real possibilities for the major improvement will come from progressives who make demands and organize. And I agree 100%. Michael Rudden says, Egberto, most Americans think that things are going wrong and the Democrats are pushing the status quo with insufficient incremental change. When some Americans vote Republican to break the status quo, they don't realize things can get worse. Much, much worse. Exactly right, Mike. Bruce Pollard is in the house from Kingwood, Texas. We also have in the house Lee Grant from Montgomery County. Thank you guys for being here. In the chat, we have Deborah J. says, our local Democratic Party in my area is gaining many new members and gaining momentum. Thank you, Deborah. You need to put that energy and teach those in other areas what they need to do. Thank you, Deborah, for that. Like the Republican Party doesn't have old men in part. No, they do. But you know what? They have a bench. Look at their senator from Missouri. I don't like him, but they have a bench. They have a bench. It's not about criticizing the Democratic Party. It's about building the Democratic Party. All right. Let's see what else we have here. And let me just say, a lot of people take, especially when this is also playing on Daily Kos, right? A lot of our older Democrats tend to attack people like myself when we try to push the Democratic Party to actually get engaged. Look, it's not a negative what we're doing. I am a very progressive Democrat, all right? A very Medicare for all, childcare, all that stuff that most people want. We have to do that. We have to do that. All right, let's see. What else have I got here before I start the video? Bruce Beto is coming to North Houston, mañana. Yeah, I know. I'm a part of that team, the progressive of Houston. Actually, we brought it. It was our initial, not our. I should say our. I work with Cindy Hendrickson, who heads the Indivisible Houston, and she's the one who started that entire ball rolling. And so that's a reality for it I think it's at the Humboldt Convention Center. But anyway, let's go ahead and start the interview that I just completed. Oh, wait. Let's get you in here. with Lina Hidalgo, and then we'll take it on the other side after she's done. Check this out. We'll take it on the other side. Maybe I'll get it running sometime. Welcome to another edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. We are honored today to have Judge Lina Hidalgo. Judge Lina Hidalgo leads Harris County, the nation's third largest county, as its chief executive and emergency manager. Elected in 2018 at age 27 and re-elected in 2022, she became the first woman and first Latina to hold the office, overseeing a $4 billion, yes, that's with a B, $4 billion budget for nearly 5 million residents. A Colombian-American immigrant who graduated from Stanford after arriving in Houston at 15, Hidalgo centers equity, flood resilience, public health investment, and criminal justice reform. She boldly steered the county through Hurricane Beryl and the COVID-19 pandemic, championed record early childhood and infrastructure funding, while defending local democracy and voting rights against state reentrenchment and preemption efforts. Judge Lina Hidalgo, welcome to Politics Done Right. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm excited to be back.
Well, look, thank you for being here. First of all, because of the purposeful lacking of education about our government, too many do not understand the difference between federal, state, county, or city governments and the respective independent and overlapping roles. So my question to you is, let's sort of start this discussion by you telling us, what does Commissioner's Court do? And as the leader of Commissioner's Court, what's your responsibility?
Yeah, so Commissioner's Court is the county's governing body. And so it is a board that's comprised of 5 members, 4 county commissioners that each have their precinct, their district, and the county judge. I serve at large. All of us, each of us is elected. They're in their districts. I'm elected across all of Harris County. And our primary duty is to manage the budget. And so that's why this budget season has been particularly impactful for me, because there are some specific budget issues. So anyway, so that's the primary responsibility. We, as the county, we fund and are responsible for public libraries, for flood control in bayous and channels, the flood control district, the public hospital system, roads and bridges infrastructure in unincorporated areas of Harris County. So areas where there is no city at all. Think Cypress, for example, right? Cypress is not a city. And then I, as county judge, the title is a misnomer. I'm really the county executive. And a part of my responsibility is as director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management for Harris County.
So you set the direction of the commissioners as well, correct?
So, part of it is, of course, the visibility of the role, right? So I have 1 vote on the Commissioner's Court. And in order to pass anything, we need 3 votes. My vote weighs just as much as that of any of the commissioners. But of course, I'm the executive, I'm the figurehead. And so in that sense, I'm able to call attention to particular issues and make sure that we're at least trying for us to be pushing in the direction that is most in the interests of our constituents. And so, of course, folks know Harris County has 4.7 million residents as of the last census in 2020. And we have 34 cities, including the city of Houston, about 2 million people who don't live in any city at all. We are the 3rd largest county in the country. So it's LA County, and then Cook County, Chicago, and then it's us. And we're larger than 25 states in population.
Imagine that. Okay, recently you voted for recently what came up in the Commissioner's Court was to find money to increase the pay of your deputies. That was $142 million. Of course, there's already a deficit of $130 million, and you voted what I think is a justifiable vote against it. Tell me where you're going to get the money with ensuring you're not going to affect necessary programs. Show me where you're going to get the money. Otherwise, it's fiscally responsible to vote for a $142 million raise. Explain to me how can one try to appropriate that which isn't there?
Right. And that's the point is our deputies deserve a raise and need a raise. For one, we want to recruit and retain the best people for the safety of the community, for their safety. And also, we want to make sure that we're not training deputies and then let them go because they learn here the best practices and then go work somewhere else that pays more, be it a city within Harris County, a neighboring county, you name it. And so, so we know we need to give them a raise. And of course, that's something I want to do. But the question is, this $140 million, we don't have it. It would be a deficit, and it's on top of the $130 million deficit you mentioned. So what my colleagues have done, a majority of the court, is to commit the county to a $270 million deficit without saying where that money is going to come from. And, when we talk about it, it sounds like it's just an everyday occurrence. It's sort of normalizing to just throw around these numbers, but this is not normal. I don't know that the county has ever been in this kind of a situation. It's certainly not the county that I inherited or have been managing. And it's very disappointing for me to see that, as soon as we have a supermajority of Democrats on Commissioner's Court, we're the ones certainly. I'm going to exempt myself from the statement, I think rightfully, steering the county into a problematic financial situation. So where do you get the money from? I think it's putting the cart before the horse to commit without pointing out where the cuts are going to be, because the community deserves to know what the trade-offs are so that they can come and speak at Commissioner's Court and voice their opinion on that vote before we take it. And so that needs to be step one. And then, if those cuts are too severe, too detrimental to the day-to-day services, which frankly, I think they probably would be, because we've already done efficiency studies. We just don't have that much fat to cut. Then it's a question of asking the voters whether they would like to cover, they'd be willing to cover that increase via their tax dollars. And so we had an opportunity to do that last year. And so before we hit this major deficit, I wanted to go to the voters and just say, look, the deputies need a raise. Where do you stand on this? And if, of course, if they voted no, then we know, okay, well, we got to go to the trade-offs. And I couldn't get support to put it on the ballot. So, for me, it's been, it's really tough to watch. And I think, the similarities between that, what the city of Houston is doing, and then what the Trump administration is doing is so frustrating. It almost feels like we have the GOP 3 in the Commissioner's Court, as opposed to, having four Democrats and one Republican.
I am so glad that you framed that the way you framed it. Democracy. There is a $270 billion shortage. County, what do you want to do about it? We've gone through efficiency studies. You can't get blood out of water. Therefore, you have to decide. And by the way, one other thing that I want to stress here: deputies, our police are very important, but so are the people who clean your office, Judge. So are the people who keep the parks open. So everybody is deserving of a raise. And for us to cut everybody else in order to pay one particular segment of your employees, if you will, I think is patently unfair. And as you've mentioned, it's something that would be expected of other parties. So when I saw Garcia and Briones vote in favor of fiscal irresponsibility, it's one of the reasons I also contacted you, for many other reasons, of course, but one of the other reasons that I contacted you. So I think it is important that this message goes out there. The truth of the matter is, in this county and in this country, Democrats by design and by policy have always been the ones that are fiscally responsible, even as the propaganda doesn't say that. Just want to point that out specifically. So therefore, before we move on to another subject, what then do you hope to do to change, to find a way to pay for this? Because I tell you what, for the other things that would have to be cut, it's a no-go.
Right.
What are you going to do?
Let me just tell you, the kinds of things that would be on the chopping block is it would be the libraries. It would be the public health department. It would be the animal shelter. We have very limited statutory responsibilities for the animal shelter. For example, it's enforcing animal cruelty laws. But that's just about it. There's no requirement for us to have the beautiful facility that we have and go and do spay and neuter events. And, there's still a lot more that needs to be done, not less. We have entire communities that have problems with stray dogs in particular that we're trying to lean in on. Homelessness is another one. It's still an issue, but we've reduced homelessness by 20% during the pandemic, and we've maintained that, whereas other jurisdictions actually increased. So what's going to happen when we can't fund that anymore? And people point to the city. The mayor is saving all this money, and he's not raising taxes. And I would point people to the document that Controller Chris Hollins released recently, and it's really sort of calling the question the way I'm doing of, okay, it sounds really nice what you're saying. Let's give raises, of course, but how are you going to pay for it? And don't just wave your hand and not answer. And what we're seeing on the part of the city, very similar, is the only way for them to be able to make those commitments, those funding commitments, is going to be to raise the water bill, is going to be to raise property taxes, is going to be to keep kicking the can down the road in terms of their pension commitments. So that just puts the city in a worse and worse financial situation. It's just deeply irresponsible. And to your point, whether it's the rhetoric or not, we generally are fiscally responsible, but forget the rhetoric. The point is, how can we, even if it's, I want to win my reelection, it's just inappropriate and should be disqualifying to put the community so much behind the eight ball in terms of not even giving them a chance to understand what it is that's happening before taking a vote, and also to basically doom the county financially or service-wise for the foreseeable future, just for the sake of politics. I mean, I think this is going to be remembered. It's a disservice to community, and it's a disservice to the county. So what do I want to see? I want to see that information very clearly conveyed. But at this point, the vote's been taken. They said they're going to take the money. And I would like to see, if that is really truly as problematic as I think it's going to be in terms of the cuts, then just ask the voters and see what they'd be willing to do. The tax rate under my administration has been lower than it ever was under my predecessor. I know taxes are too high, property taxes. We have every relief possible in terms of homestead exemptions, over 65 exemptions. And people need to remember that the reason property taxes are so high is partially it's the school district taxes, because the state over the past few years has dramatically cut its commitment to education. So it cut that. Now it's been growing it, but not enough to make up for the cuts that they'd enacted, which requires the school districts to then collect additional property taxes. I'm
spending an inordinate amount of time on this particular issue because I think Harris County residents need to understand this. If these, whatever happens, it always seems that the people that pay the ultimate cost of these bad decisions are generally the working class and the ones who don't have the time to spend going to commissioner's court and pleading their case. And you mentioned the libraries, etc., but it's a whole lot more than that. It's people who don't know the reasons when they go to get health care that they won't be able to, but they're not going to go to commissioner's court while they're lobbying groups for the police, they're lobbying groups for the contractors and otherwise to go and demand this in proper. So for those of you who are listening to this, go ahead.
I did not have to do this in order to win my reelection. And it was $25 million spent against me. And so I've heard from some people, sort of apologizing for these votes by the two Democrats saying, well, it's election season. They need to do this in order to win.
No.
I call BS on that, right?
No, it's not.
It's not. Their districts are drawn Democratic. Certainly, it's going to be. It's been a tough year, but I don't think there's going to be $25 million against them. It's a much smaller district.
Judge,
they have contractor money. So anyway, it's really tough for me to watch, and I'm going to continue advocating against.
Judge, this is politics, and that's not only politics. It's actually dirty politics, period. You don't have to say it. I will. Let me ask you about the recent issue with your expressed concern about the decision of most of your colleagues on the court to place security emergency under that group that's called the Intergovernmental Affairs for Lobbying.
Yeah. So, folks remember the Astroworld tragedy. It was, it took place in the county stadium at NRG Park, and it was horrible. The families who lost loved ones there are never going to be able to reconcile what happened. And at the time, I was not supported by my colleagues in conducting a thorough and independent audit of what happened. The county did not have legal liability for various reasons. Most of the plans went through the city, et cetera. Excuse me. But the reality of the matter is that there are things that needed to have been done differently. And so I don't want to risk there being something like that with the World Cup. People look to me in the event of an emergency. And so I can't say if something happens, or if people ask me whether we're prepared, I can't say, well, I don't know. Ask the committee, that left out our Office of Emergency Management. So I was very surprised when one of my colleagues put a motion on the agenda saying that a committee was going to be formed to address various issues, including security and safety. And it was put under the International Intergovernmental Affairs Group, which is basically our lobbying group. They're in Austin lobbying, and it includes various entities, but not my office or the Office of Emergency Management. And so, frankly, I think it is about, I've been shining a light on the problematic contracting practices in Harris County. We managed to force, the biggest reform in 50 years last April. There's still, because it turned out that within the precincts, hundreds of millions of dollars were being awarded without conflict of interest forms, without anything written down, without scoring criteria, scoring committee. I mean, literally what Kim Mogg falsely accused my staff of doing was actually happening for 5 decades in commissioner precincts. And our relatively new commissioners simply continued that tradition. And so, I've been wanting to change that. Change some of it. And then, of course, the conversation on the budget. So I think, as you said, it's politics, but the problem is, this has to do with safety and security. So look, if you want to get in the way of a trade mission, or, not look me in the eye as colleagues does, that's okay. But if it has to do with safety and security, that's problematic. So I'm going to keep, to the extent that I cannot have visibility into the plans, I'm just going to have to say that. And I don't think that's going to be good for the county, our relationship with FIFA, but I have to do my duty as an elected official.
One last question, since we are out of time. I really expected more time than this, but anyhow, let's go ahead and ask this specifically. I think I was pretty much upset of what they made of the trip to Paris. I've watched guys who run the city, guys who run the county, guys who run many other intergovernmental agencies march on to various other countries without a problem, without an issue. And to make this a particular issue, it almost seemed like unnecessary micromanagement for what is normally done. Your thoughts on that? And then I have a couple of things to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's politics, as you said. I thankfully these days, after my mental health leave and after, having my staff wrongfully prosecuted or something, it's like, this feels like small potatoes. And so it's a trade mission. We have high level meetings. It's organized by the Greater Houston Partnership and Rice University. They approached me to lead the trade mission. As you said, it's standard. And it was funding that was coming from my own budget. So I have a budget for travel. It's not additional money. It's $23,000 compared to, $270 million. And part of it was to pay for my security detail to be able to come. And so, it was nasty because, generally speaking, each of us is able to spend our office funding as we see fit. So this is very much unprecedented. But, I can see it as, as petty as it is. I think it's quite obvious. And so, thankfully, I have some campaign funding that I can help cover that with. My concern, of course, is that staff might have to take vacation time to be able to go because I can't pay them for the hours they're working. But, it's fine. It's neither here nor there. And look, we're a lot of good work. I just, I want the grassroots people in our party to put pressure on folks, because we have one Harris County, and we're not going to hold on to it if we get to office and behave like the good old boys that were here before us.
And to add to that, one important factor, you said it's not neither here nor there. I think it's here and there. And the reason why, it's because specifically the different treatment for women, in my opinion, and not only for women, but also for the younger people. And I consider the younger people coming up in the party, the younger people coming up in the county, those who should be and leading the county, and for a whole bunch of old folks to tell you that we're not going to pay for it. I think it's something that should be, to put it bluntly, should be made hell of. Now, that said, how I feel and what I'll also preach about when I'm on the radio, one last statement, and it goes as follows. And tell me here, are you running?
So Egberto, as far as your other point, I think, what's also surprising is sort of the echoing of the talking points from the folks on the other side of the aisle. Very surprising. I think we have enough to stand on with all the incredible work we've done over the years, and I'm excited about it, and I'm proud of it, and I think the people are too. And it's been really powerful, and the voters have a lot to do with that as well, right? Supporting.
Yes.
Flood control projects and tax break for early childhood facilities. So yeah, as far as running again, I'm afraid I'm not going to be breaking any news on that right now. I know I am still finalizing my decision. I hope to be able to announce next month what my decision is going to be, because if I decide not to run again, I want there to be enough time for a strong Democrat to put their name on the ballot and work hard before the primary and then the general. So it's a matter of, fundamentally, these executive positions, I think, shouldn't be longer than 2 terms. And that's sort of how I felt about it from the start. And at the same time, I think there is value in having someone there, and not just one of my colleagues, but at least 2 of us sort of calling things out for what they are and on behalf of the community. And so, I'm not indispensable. I would never think so much of myself as to pretend that I am. But, it's going to be a tough decision. So we'll see. Stay tuned. And I'll be announcing that soon.
Judge Lina Hidalgo, Harris County Judge, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed listening to Lina Hidalgo. Again, she's the youngest commissioner's court judge ever, controls the budget of an entire 5 million full county. Proud of her, proud of the work that she's doing. Of course, the attacks come in for various reasons, but it doesn't really matter. The thing about it is she understands who she is, where she is, and what she intends to get done. We just need, however, Democrats to act more like Democrats instead of being Donald Trump light. So I think going forward, the progressive wing of the Democratic Party has a whole lot of stuff it has to do to ensure that Harris County Democrats start acting like Democrats. Anyway, let's continue here. Para ver. Welcome aboard, Kenneth A. Bryant, Susan Liu, Susan, Paul Henry Carvalho, or maybe Carvalho. I don't know. Dale, March KJ, welcome aboard. Anyway, folks, I have another video for you, another important video. Let me get to it with Scott Pelley, and then after that, we'll be able to take calls if anybody wants to call in. Here is that video. It is clear that Donald Trump is always after education. He's always after the educated. He's always after the scientists, because the reality is, with somebody with such a deprived intellect, if you will, they all become a threat to him. That's why he's with the movement that burns books. That's why he is with the movement that attacks universities and think that people that are smart are just too smart for their britches, or that is why well, I tell you what, do you remember, I always find this kind of funny, but do you guys remember this? What Donald Trump said about liking the uneducated. Check this out.
Poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. I love the poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Now think about that. Think about that. That was not some off-putting thing that he said when he actually said how much he loved the poorly educated, because the only way you can be a crook and not pay the price for it, the only way you can pass a big bill that attacks Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP, and all the programs that the middle class and the working class needs, and them not come after you, is if you ensure they're not only poorly educated, but they are indoctrinated by you. Luckily, Scott Pelley gave a commencement speech from Scott Pelley from 60 Minutes. And I think he nails it. He actually nailed it. And Chris Hayes did a piece on it, and I want to cut out a little segment of that piece and let you hear it, because I think it was a very well done piece on what Donald Trump wants to do, not just with education, but if you notice, he's doing the same thing with RFK, passing policies that really harm people. Again, there are reasons behind it. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
We're also seeing this escalation day by day of Trump's attacks on us, news media. Probably best exemplified by the president's $20 billion lawsuit against CBS News over an interview 60 Minutes held with then candidate Kamala Harris. First Amendment experts call the lawsuit meritless, but Paramount, which owns CBS, is already in settlement negotiation. In response, President and CEO of CBS News, Wendy McMahon, resigned, as did the executive producer of 60 Minutes, Bill Owens. Earlier this month, journalist Scott Pelley, who has been at 60 Minutes for more than 2 decades, delivered this warning at a recent commencement address for graduating students at Wake Forest University in North Carolina.
Why attack universities? Why attack journalism? Because ignorance works for power. First, make the truth seekers live in fear. Sue the journalists and their companies for nothing. Then send masked agents to abduct a college student who wrote an editorial in her college paper defending Palestinian rights, and send her to a prison in Louisiana charged with nothing, then move to destroy the law firms that stand up for the rights of others. With that done, power can rewrite history.
As you can see there, Pelley, to his great credit, is not cowed. And it's true that many aren't. Not every outlet is capitulating to Trump. In fact, today, National Public Radio announced it is suing Trump over his attempts to essentially annihilate the organization, gut funding for the independent outlet through an executive order. And we're seeing this type of resistance everywhere, and sometimes in sort of unexpected areas. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, I think he's a pretty conservative guy, as far as I can know. He's a guy who was initially elevated to the job of Federal Reserve Chair by a guy named Donald Trump in his first term, is fighting the president's pressure campaign to remove him from his position, calling on the next generation to preserve our democratic institutions, again, in another weekend commencement speech at Princeton University. Here's the single most important thing for everyone to understand about this ongoing existential battle to preserve our American birthright of a free and open society. All these institutions and the people that power them and the vast sources of independent knowledge production and authority contained within them that form what is the kind of civil society of America, altogether are more powerful than this one petty, addled man. And Donald Trump knows it, and that's why he wants to end them. And the real silver lining here, and there is one, is that Trump's attacks are so reckless and so baseless and transparent, they have left our independent institutions with no choice but to fight back.
So there we go again. The president, the anti-intellect president, the president that wants to keep people dumb because he knows if people remain uninformed, indoctrinated, etc., that he can simply pilfer them with not a cost. But you know what we are here for? We're here to tell him that no, we see what you're doing, and there are enough of us out here that will seek out your people who you try to keep in a box of misinformation, well, we're putting little cracks and creases and air holes in that box. And ultimately, Mr. President, you're going to lose.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it goes.
And yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And he likes to keep folks uninformed. Let's see. Michael Radin says, Egberto, I've seen another snippet from that speech. Let's see. I hope it has a little bit more because I didn't get all. So let's go ahead and put that up, Michael Radnin. Let's go ahead and do that snippet from the speech you're talking about, and I'll get it on the screen momentarily. Let's see where it's at. Put it there. Make sure I have that set up. There we go. All right. Let's see if that's it. Well, where is it? Okay. No, not there. There we go.
Morning. Our sacred rule of law is under attack. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak. In America, power can rewrite history with grotesque, false narratives. They can make criminals heroes and heroes criminals. Power can change the definition of the words we use to describe reality. Diversity is now described as illegal. Equity is to be shunned. Inclusion is a dirty word. This is an old playbook, my friends. There's nothing new in this. But in this moment,
there is nothing new in this. He's actually absolutely right, 100%. But the only thing that gets me is some people, because of their own prejudices, I find it astounding how many people are content in their ignorance, right? Content because they don't have to stand up to the fact that now they have to compete. They don't have to stand up to the fact that it's not an easy ride just because of who you are anymore, right? I think Kenneth said something that hits home. If you are a rich kid whose father bought a university building or donated millions to assure you get a degree that will open doors for you, you don't believe in a merit-based society. That's Donald Trump. He just described Donald Trump. He didn't get his education or got into college because of his merit. You can watch him. He's a dummy. He doesn't know much. He's the kind of guy that thinks you can inject bleach in veins, that you can put light in your... he is a dummy. Somebody like that doesn't get into the university that he got into the business department he got into. You can't be that dumb and educated at one of our elite universities. He's dumb. So he didn't get there from merit. We had Pete Hegseth, who replaced Austin, General Austin. Pete Hegseth, General Austin. He talks about merit. This drunk that can barely read talks about merit compared to somebody like General Austin. When you look at the Trump cabinet, it's amazing because the people that are there based on merit are the people of color. It's amazing. The people who want to get rid of DEI, opening their world to the people of merit. Not that they're doing the right thing, but you look at the folks who have a relative sense of intelligence. You look at his Treasury Secretary. He's gay. What's his name? Dennett, gay. You look at Marco Rubio, his Secretary of State, Latino. You look at his HUD department, the head of his HUD department, a black businessman, and all the rest of them are misfits. It is amazing that the thing that they're most against, those are the people who are the ones with some sort of intellect in the administration's cabinet, right? Elon Musk can't get a rocket to fly. I did a piece on that this morning at KPFT. Elon Musk, right? We gave Elon Musk all the technology needed, all the technological know-how NASA developed since the 60s. He has it all, and he can't get a major booster in 9 tries. Even as we have finite element analysis and simulations that we can do before we blow up hundreds of millions of dollars, right? We can, where we blow stuff up that can put airplanes in danger. I mean, we're talking about the level of incompetence running this government right now. Doge was a complete failure. So he failed at government. He failed at rockets. And for the ones who say, well, you got SpaceX sent it to the to the space station. That's our technology, not his, not the one that he paid for. We paid for that. The stuff that he's paying for is failing. And by the way, we are still paying for it because he takes a lot of welfare from the government. Elon Musk does. Welfare recipient extraordinaire. All right, folks, I got 4 minutes for call. Give me a call. 281. Oh, let me put it on the screen. 281-823-7747. 281-823-7747. Anybody can call me now. 281-823-7747. Anything you want to say. Deborah says, Trump also got out of the military service with the help of his daddy and heel spurs. Yeah, right. Were the spurs real? If he had heel spurs, he would not be able to stay on his feet playing golf and wasting taxpayer dollars. Exactly right. Cheryl Burke, welcome aboard. Adam W. says, the Bush family as well. Exactly. Deborah J. said, I said before that ignorant people are easily manipulated. Ignorance makes it easier for Trump to stay in power. Let me show you the heights of ignorance, right? My brother in the chat, we just had Lina Hidalgo on. He said, Lina Hidalgo is a Democrat. Ellis is a Democrat. I'm talking about commissioners. Garcia, a Democrat. Briones, a Democrat. Ramsey, a Republican. Now, they want to give this big raise to the deputies, right? To match his city of Houston. But they don't have any way to pay right now. They don't have to find the money. So the people who voted to blow up the Harris County budget, welcome aboard, Harry, hold on a second. For the people who decided to blow up the budget, Garcia, Briones, and Ramsey, a Republican and 2 Trump-like Democrats, decided to blow the budget. Now, Hidalgo, the commissioner that I had on, the judge, she's the head of the commissioners. She and Ellis decided not to blow up the budget. They want to do the fiscally responsible thing. And you have in the chat, Eric Hayes talking about her being fiscally responsible. It's the Republican and the 2 Trump-like Democrats that are blowing the budget. It shows you what the inability to think rationally, the inability to be not only think rationally, but the inability to critical thought. But you can take the horse to water, you can't force it to drink. You got 1 minute, Harry. Talk to me, my brother.
Okay. Well, first thing is the email I sent you on Adam Becker from the. I was wondering if you saw that email when he was on the show. Think. And then the one I sent you a few months ago of Freakonomics, the 10 myths about our tax system. I just wondered if you got those so you can check those out and do some shows on them. And then one other thing, I heard Donald Trump on NPR. I was listening to 1A, Jen White's 1A, because they were talking about NOAA and FEMA getting cut. And Donald Trump said out of his own mouth that states have to just pay for it. Federal dollars are not going to pay for these disasters. I mean, the man is just stupid and dumb. They need those federal dollars for these hurricanes that happen and tornadoes.
Harry, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm going to put you on the spot. And I love you and you're my friend, but I have to do this because you know the truth now. But we told you, if folks went ahead and played around with their vote in this election, this guy was going to squeak by, and that's exactly what he did. And now we are having to spend all this time to repair that damage. Remember to tell all of your friends who want to go ahead and play with their vote. Your vote is a serious thing. My brother, we talk on tomorrow, my brother. Wait, what's today? Thursday? Talk tomorrow, brother. Have a good one. Okay.
Tomorrow's dealing. Tomorrow's Neil Aquino Day, along with your pitch driving.
Yeah,
if I have something to call, I'll call you.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Have a good one.
All right, folks, I got to get out of here. Thank you so kindly for listening. Thank you so kindly for being here. Please remember to go ahead and become if you have the wherewithal to do so, we can only do this with your support. So I ask those of you who can to please become a paid supporter. Many ways to do that. One of the first ways to do that, you can become a patron. That is politicsdoneright.com/patron. But what we really ask is I need about 595 or so paid subscribers on Substack to get to the next level. You know that orange flag that'll give me more penetration? I need about 595 more members. So if you can become a paid subscriber, if you can become a paid subscriber and encourage others to become a paid subscriber to our newsletter, here is the link, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. That is how we can keep moving this message forward. It's me alone doing 16 hours of work every day, 7 days a week. Love to do it because we've got to work together to get this ship turned around. So thank you so kindly. I ask you kindly, become a paid subscriber today. politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. If you're already in the chat or whatever for Substack, just click subscribe and become a paid subscriber. Thank you so kindly. Got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out!
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.